Captain, can I talk to you? Of course. Oh, don't do that. Yeah, and don't do what? Man, I have COVID and trying to do an episode of the show, but whatever. This is a quest, and it is the questionnaire. So, you know, this is your COVID edition, I guess, because I, the unknown factor, have COVID because my wife works at a nursing home and she didn't fucking quarantine properly. Oh, she's got no comment to that shit. She's like, I'm just not gonna say anything with her non-quarantine ass giving me and the boy COVID, whatever. But I had to do this particular episode, ladies and gentlemen, because I ain't got no time machine. I gotta catch up on enough, and this gentleman already had an episode that was lost to sound issues. Sadly, thankfully, at least it was just him and not four people. It is kind of funny though that I got the PanCon re-recorded before I got this particular episode re-recorded with Scott Wojcik. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. How you doing, Jay?
Dude, I just told you I had COVID. Twice for that matter. I said twice. Twice for that matter, because I forgot to press record when we initially started this episode. Thankfully, I just caught it way quicker than I did when I had Skylar on. Because that was terrible. That's another tech issue altogether we won't get into. Yeah, so, COVID. Like I was telling you earlier on the part that didn't record, man, it amazes me that COVID hurt your spine as well. How weird is it that it makes your spine hurt?
It is. You literally kicks your ass.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it does not compute. I don't understand why it made, of all things, my spine hurt. It was confusing. So yeah, I've technically been laid up through most of the day. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all, right? And we have a bunch of past episodes you all should go check out, man. But right now we're gonna get into the fact that you didn't answer your third wish.
I didn't, no. Because I couldn't think of one. Which should have been to get rid of COVID.
Yeah, man. It makes your fucking spine hurt. What kind of dumb shit is that?
No kidding.
Like, of all things, man, that is the weirdest thing. But I will say, since we had you on for the episode that no one saw, because
It didn't.
That has not happened that often over at the questionnaire. I'll be real honest, as far as for some reason or another, a conversation that was happening between myself and a creator not being shown. Usually the reason is some kind of tech issue. Pretty much all the time the reason has been some kind of tech issue. I won't say there haven't been other reasons. That's not here nor there. But the conversation you and I had, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was dope. I know it was one of your first interactions as this. So
yeah.
I get the trepidation, especially from someone that, I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of crazy and outlandish, and that's why like this has never really bothered me to that degree. Plus, it's probably the autism. Like, fuck it, yeah. So nothing about that's ever really bothered me, man. But I know I've had people that are trepidatious. I know it's in part times where, you're just getting into something. But since that conversation, holy hell, Scott,
been on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, you've done quite a bit, man. Quite a bit. I can't think of how many times I've seen pictures from you or Andrew to where you're sitting side by side. That's Andrew Thomas for everyone that doesn't know out there. You can check out his past quest. Great guy, hell of a letter, and it amazes me the progress I've seen in his art from the time I initially interviewed him to now, because I feel like that man as well has stepped up his game. So what has that been like for you? You just initially started this, you and your kids writing this comic, which is a great comic, man. If you're looking for a comic to get your kids reading, I highly suggest Cereal Box Time Machine. I truly do. There's a link in the description. You can check it out. What's that been like as far as to start going on all of the conventions? Jesus, I bounced at PanCons. My brain is broke from COVID, man. I'm sorry. And doing all that. to where you were when we initially had that interview?
Yeah. So when we first initially had the interview, I hadn't done any cons, any shows whatsoever. I think since then I've done 8. Few of them are just local, standing in a grocery store, sitting down and selling there. But I've done Niagara Falls Comic Con, CK Expo in Chatham. I got one day at the Fan Expo in Toronto, and then I just did one in Windsor, the Northern National. So, and all of them I've done with Andrew Thomas. So, which
That
is
number was way lower than I honestly expected based on what I've seen on your social media.
Yeah, I've been busy, so
Yeah.
though making those connections I think is really huge, right? In this industry, and I know you watch a lot of artists and creators and that, and if they don't put themselves out there, I don't think you're going to make it anywhere. So the idea was to uh, be as vocal as I could with every creator I can. So pick their brains, learn from them, right?
And not only that, but I think the social media aspect is very, very important, which I know I suck at. I mean, hell, it's not like I didn't drop an episode at the day that this is recorded that I didn't promo at all. I'm sorry, Alex and Hugh. I really need to get on that because it's out there and it's 2 phenomenal artists sketching 2 phenomenal pieces, and I didn't do any promo at all. I'm gonna blame the COVID for that one personally.
Yeah.
It's shit. Literally had my spine hurting, curled up into a fucking fetal position on bed, which I'm not a fan to even say that I was fucking curled up into a fetal position. What kind of BS is that? You know? So, and I mean, you do phenomenal at that, though, as far as the promo, and especially with the variety of covers that you've come with both of these issues.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a total of 9 covers. Actually, since we talked, I actually just launched my own cover for issue number 1. So this is my first professional cover. So, which has been awesome.
What's that been like, man, as far as approaching that from, initially hitting up different cover artists, and now you obviously have gotten the motivation and had to, shit, what's the word? This COVID's got my brain dicked up, bro. Maybe I started to think maybe I should have rescheduled this interview, but to have the feeling that you were able to put out a cover that was sufficient enough for the comic that you were trying to produce. There you go. That works.
Well, what I did was I inked this one. You know what? It was kind of out of the blue. I sketched the cover. I played around with it and inked it, and then I scanned it in and sent it off to Lean. And I said, "Hey, listen, let's color this and see what it looks like once it's done. And if it's good enough, then we'll do a variant cover of it, of my own." So, and it turned out pretty awesome.
Well, and I think that's the important thing a lot of people don't realize is in the process of making something like that, it's important to make sure that you have somebody that knows what they're dealing with at every level, up to a colorist. And I feel like that's in the comic book industry. I feel like for some reason there are 2 people that probably get far less credit than they deserve: the colorist and the letterer.
Letters. Yeah, I agree.
Why do you think that is? In regards, because without, I know just the way certain things are lettered can impact a book a great deal. You know what I mean?
Well,
And certainly the color. I mean, unless we're talking The Walking Dead, which actually they're releasing in color, which I find really crazy. And a few other random books. Those
yeah.
2 things are very, very important. Why do you think it is that people tend to focus exclusively on the artist and the writer more than anything else within the comic industry?
I honestly don't know why that is. We've had this discussion, like when I went to Fan Expo and was helping Andrew. Andrew's the only main letterer in all of the guests that were there in Toronto. I mean, quite honestly, that's what he focuses on, right? And as much as people want to put that down, lettering is absolutely massive for a comic. If those word bubbles aren't placed correctly, if um the oh, I forget what the word is. The
Font.
yeah, if that stuff isn't put in the correct spot, it takes away from the actual image of the picture too, right? So for someone to say that it's not as important as the artwork or even the story, they're wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Because I think people fail to realize that, especially in the case, I mean, the colorist obviously is going to affect the story a great deal because they're setting the tone, the actual literal tone
Yeah.
of the book. So I think maybe they get a bit more credit. I don't know. I think inkers probably get shit on a lot of the time too, but a lot of artists do their own inking work, as you said you just did with this
Yeah.
cover. And I mean, I could sit there and I could list a lot of artists that have actually been on the show who are phenomenal inkers who I've watched ink their own work live on the show. It's just impressive, is what it is. You know what I mean? Just to watch that process from taking it to pencil and then you're going over it with the ink. Now, in the case of that, obviously, it's someone that designed the initial picture and then has an idea. But if you're talking about inkers that are just seeing a picture and then they're taking it further, that's different, as well as with colorists where they're adding the actual color palette. Now, letterers, I think, probably get the short end of the stick because people think, oh, well, they're just putting letters on without realizing that, like you said, where they're placing the word balloons, where they're placing those letters, where they're placing the pow, the big old boom or whatever in the comic,
Absolutely.
you can highly affect the art if you don't know how to place that proper.
Absolutely you can. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure there's lots of examples out there of books that like when we talked about doing this, there was questions of if I just do the lettering myself. I would never be able to do that. After seeing what the process that Andrew does, it's unbelievable how much work is actually put into it.
And
There to it.
shout out to Andrew, man. Like I said, great guy, man. I love to see the progression that I have in his work since he's been on the show. I mean, he just recently did a cover for Star Trek over there at IDW with Heather Antos. Um, and so I know he's moved along greatly in a lot of things, but that makes me curious the whole process of what Andrew does. And we got into that a little, but holy shit, that was like 50 quests ago. You know?
Yeah.
Don't know that I remember fucking specifics, to be real honest, as far as in that crazy process, man. You know. But I do think it's important that people remember all those processes. Now, to that end, let's just flip this because it's what I do. Uh, you came up with a cereal box time machine. Well, you and your kids.
Yeah, me
Um,
and my yeah.
which is a very interesting concept. And my bad, Scott. I should have got issue 2 read. I'll read it later, but I'm
No
just
worries.
blaming my wife because she's the one that brought the COVID. Fuck
No
yeah,
worries.
damn son of fucking COVID. Like that shit was ridiculous, man. So I could have used that wand from that book just to be like, no more COVID.
Boom. Done.
All right,
Next.
like even if it was just for us three in the house, I'd have been key with that. You know, what was that like though? Writing a story with your kids in that regard, from the initial phase of coming up with it to realizing that you guys wanted to branch out and make it to where you could let this run. Because
Yeah.
obviously, a storyteller's mind, everybody's different when they're trying to tell a story. That's why there is the variety of stories that exist within our society. But when you're trying to tell a story with how old are your kids again? Run it by me.
They're 13, 11, and 9.
Okay. So I mean you don't have one real young where it's like, oh man, they're gonna throw in some crazy like if you had like a
Well,
5 year old, God knows what he'd come up with. I mean, but they're at least gonna be able to stay on that storytelling rhetoric. What was it like? And in that, do you find times where you have to take your kids and be like, well, hey, that's a good idea, but
Absolutely. Yeah. To kind of pull it back a little bit. So I originally wrote this in grade 7. The main concept, at least, was I found a wand in a cereal box and I go to medieval times and fight a dragon. That was the concept of the story, right? So when I told my kids about that we used to get toys in cereal boxes, um, which is taking a step back, isn't it? So
Do
they
any
thought
wait?
this was a really cool idea.
Do any cereal companies do that anymore?
I don't know if they do.
Okay, fair enough. I just had to
Yeah.
interject that. Yeah, because I don't.
If anything, it's
Hmm.
the cut out the inside of the box and write your name and send things in to get it sent to you. But usually it's like a, here's a flag type thing. It's not, there's no magic whistles, there's no any dinky cars or anything like that. So
Hmm.
yeah. So they came up with this, they came to me and my wife with the idea, and so we ended up building it out on the first issue. After that, we all kind of sat down every weekend and just started coming up with new different areas that we would go. And we of course you're playing with time. So the hard part is, do we explain anything about time travel, or do we just do the time travel? Right? Because you're going to always have those people that, oh, you're saying it wrong. It can't be done that way. All of those kind of things. And the same goes for the magic wand too, right? Do we put rules on the magic wand, or do we just not put any rules at all, which makes things a little bit more interesting? So that's kind of where we were at when we first started.
How did you go into figuring out exactly how you wanted to handle the time travel? Because you're right. Um, Time travel can be handled in a number of different ways. Like, I don't know if you've ever read. Have you read The Time Before Time?
I haven't, no.
You haven't, by Declan Shelby, man. I'll be honest. Don't take this harshly, man. It's honestly probably one of my favorite time travel stories I've ever read.
Yeah,
From Deck, yeah, it's very intriguing the way it's put together as far as how they explain time travel. But you're right, time travel through fiction has been explained so many ways. From you
yeah,
can't change anything. Whatever has been done has already been done, and that's just the way it is. To oh no, if you go back and dick with something, you're causing an alternate branch of reality. Yeah.
ex- yeah,
How did you
yeah.
decide how to handle that?
Uh, well, that was the thing. Do you? My theory was, let's just. Um, you'll see a little bit in episode 1. Some people might not notice it. Some people might think that it's actually a mistake in episode 1. So in the very first panel, the tablecloth is brown. In the second last panel of the book, the tablecloth is orange. Now, I did that actually on purpose. I wanted that to be the first clue that something has changed because the kids did time travel. And you'll see it again in issue number 2. Very lightly, one of the kids actually pointed out, hey, something is weird. What's going on? And they're like, okay, well, maybe we didn't change anything. It just seems off. So the kids don't even know that they have been changing things. So that's essentially how we're going to work with it. There is a reason to that, which will gradually be told later on.
So I can't give no spoilers. I already know the next question I was getting ready to ask is pointless because I don't feel like you'll answer it.
You never know.
Well, do you then in this, are you going to go with the multi-branch or the multiverse series where they're branching off? Or are you going to make it to where they're
there,
just changing the timeline that they're on?
there will be alternate universes.
You're going to hurt your kids' heads with this story, man. You already know that, right, Scott?
It's already started.
So there's already been points where they're like, listen, Dad.
Yeah.
Has that happened in the writing of this?
No, you know what? It hasn't. So my kids, pretty early on, we started watching Terminator, 12 Monkeys, movies that are going to explain a little bit to them, especially Terminator. Terminator is a big one and an easy one. It literally explains it to them, right? So you change one thing in the past, things in the future will change. So yeah.
I do love your list of favorite movies, man. The first, like those are 4 phenomenal films. I want to point out, I only had to say because you brought up 2 of them in T2 and in 12 Monkeys, and you've got Aliens and Unforgiven. If those are 4 films, I could probably sit down and watch them in a given moment. In all sincerity, 'cause they're just good fucking movies. Even
Yeah.
though 12 Monkeys, I don't think ever gets the love that it deserves. Because it's bizarre as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is definitely one of those movies that handles time travel, and if uh, I think it probably will never get the credit it deserves because you have to pay
You really do.
attention to that
Yeah.
film. Yeah, otherwise it'll let you slip. Are you ever worried in the writing of Sherlock's Time Machine you'll get to a point where it becomes slightly too convoluted? Because I mean it's obviously more focused towards kids for reading. So how do you make sure you're balancing it to where it doesn't come to the point where it's like, oh, this story is kind of confusing?
Well, and that was kind of why we decided to literally have no rules on the magic wand, no rules with the time travel, right? Keep it as simple as possible for kids to at least enjoy. If they don't fully understand, there's probably points where parents are going to be reading it to them, and they maybe can try and understand and explain it to them. So that's why I figured, just keep it as simple as possible.
A magic wand with no rules in the hands
And
of
for kids,
children.
yes,
You realize how scary that is if you hand it to a certain child, right?
absolutely.
It's
But when
like,
you have three children, it's a little bit easier. So
why? I,
because one's telling the other, maybe we shouldn't do that.
but you don't think you would end up with the circumstance of where they were like, all right, I know you said that, and then go grab the magic wand when everyone else was asleep and just do it anyways? Dude, they're kids.
This is true. We actually have talked about doing like solo adventures for each kid.
But I think you could definitely do that in that capacity
Yeah.
as far as you just make it to where, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, neither do I. And then the other one's like, I
Yeah.
don't care. And waits till all the other kids are asleep and just goes off and does it. Because, I mean, I know for a fact from having kids myself, man, like that sometimes you can tell a kid it's not a good idea all you want. It doesn't mean they agree with you.
And it's totally true.
Yeah.
Especially with my 9-year-old. She doesn't listen too often.
Dude, look, we got a new cat who's cool as hell, just kind of randomly showed up at the house and like he's having issues potty training, so we had him out on the front inside porch with this and that. And straight up, my boy was like, "Mommy, be nice to him and let him in the fucking house."
Yep.
Like,
Well,
I don't care what you think, mommy. This cat is my cat, and it needs to be in the house. So, yeah, sometimes children just don't listen, man. And I feel like when you give them that kind of power, it's a sorry, COVID. Uh, got my neck to where it's yeah. Uh, uh, but yeah, when you give them that level of power, dude, it's a slight bit worrisome. Like, especially when you have children at those different age ranges, because there's a very different set of problems for each one
absolutely.
of those children.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. like it when we sat down. So since our last interview that didn't work, uh, we made big changes to the actual storyline. So we always kind of knew where we wanted to go with it, but as we started to get into the second issue and going into the third, we came up with something a little bit different. Now, I know you have seen it, but we added a page at the last second, and right after we finished lettering it, and after a discussion with Leandro and with Andrew, we decided to actually take it away. And the main reason behind that was the story. It was kind of out of nowhere, right? Remember in Avengers where like Thanos just shows up and he's puts on the glove and he's like, fine, I'll do it myself. It was very reminiscent to that, right? Where Thanos just came out of nowhere, and I thought, you know what, the reader's not going to understand that. And I'm like, I need to kind of set that up and use it in a later issue. So, which actually is going to be used in issue number 3.
Yeah, because I'll say in the event of when they brought out Thanos like that, it worked. But it only worked because a bunch of people in the theater, when suddenly Thanos showed up on screen, they went, oh! and freaked out because they knew who Thanos was from reading the comic books. If you do that and just introduce somebody randomly like that, and I mean, you don't have the history of the Avengers, which, bro, if you got the history of Avengers,
makes it
that's impressive, because that's Marvel or DC as far as the history. It spans 50, 60 plus years. It's pretty deep. So to do that in that regard, I think it's easier for them to do that to films because they know there are people that are going to have a reaction. Like when they brought out Kang the Conqueror, they know there's certain people that are going to be like, whoa, it's Kang. Or, when they bring out Galactus or Silver Surfer or certain characters within the Marvel Universe, as well as DC, if they ever figure out how to do it. I wish you the best, James Gunn. Truly, I do. But how do you determine doing that in a comic book like that? To where you can introduce something, but you're not introducing it so rapidly because it's something that people have no idea what it is.
And that was exactly it, right? The theory was to introduce a villain at some point, right? I mean, the kids just can't be jumping through time and not have something happen. And so we, as we moved forward, we were like, okay, let's introduce him here. That's why it was like last second. I'm like, okay, it's going to work. And then after we actually finished it and had the page done, I'm like, it's not going to work. And so we, like I said, we decided to take it out. All it needed was a few little pages added to issue number 3, and then it works. So
what made you decide in this to introduce a big bad? I mean, because I feel like you could have done this story without having a big bad. You could have just done it to where...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main reason, like, we already knew where we wanted to go for the end of the series. Not to say that, it's going to be right away or that it, like Spawn, right? Todd McFarlane, he's had, since issue number 1, had an ending for Spawn. He's always had it. And he said, well, there's no point in doing it if the story just keeps going. Right? He knows exactly how it's going to end. So that was kind of my theory too, is, okay, I've got an ending. I know where I want to go with it. So let's actually introduce something that will actually lead to it. So that was kind of the idea behind the big bad.
Firstly, you kind of blew my mind. I didn't know Todd McFarlane had a set ending to Al Simmons' story.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I can't remember which interview I watched it in, but that was one of the interviews I actually kind of blown away myself.
Yeah, because it's at over 200 issues now, I believe.
Almost 350.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. Yep, there's 250 in compendiums.
I read the first 100. Like, I had the first 100 at a
Yeah.
point. I wish I still did, but uh, it kind of makes me want to catch up. But at the same time, you ever worry that, because what Todd McFarlane has done with Spawn has expanded to so many different things. I mean, I don't even know how many Spawns there are now, in
Oh,
all
it's
sincerity.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
I actually
several.
don't I don't know myself even.
I mean, fair enough, man. I think you would have to pretty much just read Spawn to be able to keep up on all of that. You know, because
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a female Spawn, there's a Gunslayer, or there's a Gunslinger Spawn, there's a I then again beyond that, I can't even sit here and tell you and begin to act like I know what all the other spawns are because I just don't, man. I know Al Simmons. I know a great deal about his story. I really hope Todd McFarlane is able to make a successful and proper Spawn film with Al Simmons because I know it's
Yeah.
something that he's been trying to do forever. Um, no offense to the original Spawn film, but they didn't have the CGI technology nor the money to do it
Yeah.
right. That's just the truth of it. So, what do you think about in comparing that to that? And you know, you have an original ending. Would you just continue to carry it on and on and on and on and on and on if there were
No,
still stories to tell?
no, I don't think I could. Um, I have since writing the first season, I have a um, set of seasons that I want to do. I know exactly how many issues roughly it's going to be, um, and that's just going by uh, telling the story that I want to tell with it.
Well, you say that, but you know, Todd McFarlane is by far not the only writer of Spawn anymore.
That's true. That is true.
So if it got to the
And I mean,
point where you were able to do that and have other people that looked at your world and were like, "Hey, I want to write this, 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 and this," would you be prone to be like, "Yeah,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where you could add that solo adventure series, right? So you could have them work that all into that actual story. So that, like I said, so the first season is only 6 episodes, right? Of course, I say episodes because when we wrote it as if it was a TV series. So there's 6 episodes to the series, to the first season. Once we get into season 2, we break it into a little bit of a theme. So the second season is more based on like sci-fi horror type thing. And the third season is more, without giving spoilers, they're actually chasing the monsters. They're trying to track them down, and for a reason, of course. Uh,
all I know is that
the
made me think." So something is killing the children, and now the children are trying to kill that something. All right.
there's a little bit of a twist there, yes. The fourth season, at least going by we've written so far, will actually be adventures with me and my wife. Of course, not giving any spoilers away. And then the fifth season will be the finale. So, and most of at least as how we have it set up, the second, third, fourth, and fifth season will each have 12 episodes.
I
So,
love
and
that
it
you call them
should tell the whole
episodes,
story.
and I think it's funny because I can't tell you how many times I've been holding the comic in my hand or something. But, man, that episode was, I mean, that issue was awesome.
Yeah. Yep. And I still catch myself calling it issues, But like I said, we called it episodes for a reason.
Do you, and with that, man, because I look at this story, and I know in the discussion we had previously, somebody told you that, dude, it's a kid's cartoon.
It is.
You know,
It is
I mean,
100%.
out of every discussion you've had, and I know you've been talking to a lot of different people, have any of them looked at this and went, "Hey"?
I have. Actually, two people. So I talked to Phil Ortiz, who drew the first two seasons of The Simpsons. He also drew all the Simpsons books, Bartman, Radioactive Man, all those. Had a great conversation with him. And while talking to him, Tom Cook, who is a producer, he produced Simpsons, he's produced Masters of the Universe, Scooby-Doo, and both of them really liked it.
I feel like there's something there in that conversation that happened that you're not saying.
They both got copies of it. That's all I can say.
I see the pursed lips is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say that part. I can't fucking say that part.
Yeah, there was definitely discussions. Not to say that there was actually anything that is transpired from it, but like I said, I'm only 2 issues in. They maybe want to see more.
And not only that, but I have had discussions with people as far as in taking something from a comic to a film or TV series or whatever that is. And I know from talking to Phil Hessler, he said Firestarter when he said that, man, he was telling the executives that he dealt with, like, that was a long process. And to him, they're like, what are you talking about? That's the quickest we've ever taken something from comic book to an adaptation. And I think it was like 6 to 9 months, if memory serves me proper. But in most
Yeah.
cases, it's a far greater time period than that
Oh, yeah.
for something to become whatever it is, a book, a comic, to, making it to where it is out available to larger. I say larger medium because let's be honest, people don't fucking read. More people are apt to sit and watch something than they ever are to read anything. That's just an unfortunate side effect of how we've become. But to get it to that point, it usually takes far longer than that. Like, I'd hate to see,
Absolutely.
yeah, like, I don't even want to talk about how long it's taken to, like I remember when fucking comic films, like, really started hitting, like, when Blade initially came out, and then and how it's transformed now. It's bloody crazy to see how much comic book material is coming out nowadays. But at the same time,
Yeah.
I know for a fact it takes a massive amount of time for that to become one from the other. When you were initially creating this, did you have any aspirations as far as it getting turned into something else?
I didn't. I just when we started specifically with the artwork, right? I did not want. I didn't want to go. Heavy line work. Heavy colors or anything like that. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. For that reason, that if someone came along and they'll look at it and say, "Hey, that looks like a cartoon." That was kind of the idea behind the artwork in that. When Leandro first started, he was, I think, a little worried about it, right? Because it really was a big difference from what he actually draws, what he normally draws. There was just something about his artwork that I saw that I'm like, let's pull it back and let's try the cartoon look. Now, if you look at his work from the beginning of the book to the end of the second book, massive difference in his artwork. And he's absolutely become an amazing artist.
So that was fully intentional, man. I'm just because look, from reading what I have of the Zero Box Time Machine, I think that if this was the '90s, like, that's a Saturday morning cartoon. Uh,
Yeah.
they don't do Saturday morning cartoons, so hopefully Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, blah blah blah, Sony, whoever the hell is making streaming anymore, I don't know. It makes my head hurt how many people do it. To be real honest, um, and because that's the way you would have to go. I don't see. I mean, there is no Saturday morning cartoon anymore. You know,
No,
it's just it's
no.
non-existent. What would you do if you were approached by that deal? Like, do you like how would you handle it? Would you want to maintain creative control? Would you be comfortable handing someone the reins of the comic if they could explain to you that they did have love for the book?
I think if someone approached me on it, I I'm fine with if someone wants to take control and be like, okay, this is what I think we should do with it. I think the biggest thing is, would they allow me to be a part of the process, right? Furthermore, the discussion has happened with the kids, and the kids all say they want to be a part of it. If anything like that ever happened, they want to do their own voices, stuff like that. But I think the writing, because I've never written for a TV show or a movie or anything like that, I think I would prefer that someone that actually knows what they're doing with that concept. I would want to sit down with them and like, okay, I'll tell you where I was going with it. Let's work together on it, type thing.
And I mean that's very true as far as writing for a comic from writing a TV or a movie is very, very different. And I mean there are some people within the industry that do both. Jake Michael Zinzinski is the one that pops to my head more than anything else. The gentleman that did Babylon 5 and a number of things from Top Cow, just did Batman and Joker, the book. But there is a great difference in handling those things respectively. So I understand why you would want a medium, but would you be willing to just give it over 100%? That's what I want to know. Is there a number?
I
Is there a number? There's not a number where you'd be like, "Fuck it, fine, go ahead."
Oh, I don't know if there is. I would want to have at least a little bit of say in what happens.
You know, your first wish makes me think you're lying. I'm just saying, man. If somebody walked up to you like, "Look, I'll give you $5 million. Give me the complete rights to this and fuck off."
Ooh, maybe, maybe.
I mean, that's what I'm saying because
Because if
that's
it's
enough
$5 million,
money.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. But dude, that ain't shit in Hollywood 90% of the time. What are we talking about? Come on now.
But I would hold on to rights to the toys.
You ain't George Lucas, dude. I don't think they're letting you get
Because the
away with
toys
that.
is gonna make
Yeah,
the money.
I don't think Hollywood learned from George Lucas doing that, dude. I don't think they'll ever make that deal ever
I don't think so
again.
either.
Yeah,
No,
no,
not a
yeah, never
be
again
worth
will
asking.
Hollywood make that deal. Because for some reason, and I don't know how, that's one of the amusing stories behind nerd culture, I'll say in general, is yeah, George Lucas, people don't realize, yeah, Star Wars erupted, but George Lucas, and I don't know how many people know this, I'm sure people within the true nerd culture, but there are a lot of people that are just like, oh, Star Wars, that's cool. They have no idea that George Lucas made his fortune off fucking toys.
Yep, he totally did. Yep,
Yeah.
lightsabers, Darth Vader helmets, you name it.
Yeah,
Yep.
dude, you're not getting away with that, Scott. Hollywood learned that game. All right. You
Yep.
you ask for the rights to the toys, they're gonna look at you and go, "Listen, George, shut the fuck up. Here's another million. Go to hell." All right, that's probably literally what they would do. I could see it.
Yeah, I totally agree. They probably would too.
Yeah, I give you the damn toy rights. What the hell is wrong with you? Oh my god, dude. You better have a magic wand. You want to keep those?
No shit, eh?
Oh my god. But great ambition there. I'll give you that because That is certainly the way of the world. And I think it's funny how many people don't realize that within everything that's done as far as comics and TV and in film, how much money comes from, the Black Panther and the Superman figure or the Halloween costume or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever else that gets sold.
That's totally true. Yeah.
Why do you think it is there's not a better balance? Like, why do you think it is that when people go and see comic book films, they're more apt to go pick up some kind of collectible as opposed to read the comic?
Man, I don't know. I think that people have addictive personalities, right? So I think the fact that, okay, I can, collect the book and not read it, or I can grab, this big, huge statue and set it on the side. And I don't know what it is. I think that's what it is. Like the, just that addictive personality, have to have a toy that, of your favorite character, stuff like that.
Huh. That's just an interesting way to look at that in all sincerity. And I say that as someone that, as you notice, I have several
Yeah.
different. I can't tell you how many Deadpools I have just up here. I'm not counting them right now. But at the same time, if you go up to this section that's graphic novels, I mean, there's quite a bit of Deadpool there as well. So it's always been a bit of balance for me. But I guess that's because I always enjoyed those stories and have since I was a kid. I'm not someone that went, oh, Iron Man's awesome. I love that movie. No, Iron Man was kind of a bitch ass character, to be real honest, before
Yeah.
he was made by the MCU, which is sort of funny if you think about it. Like, come on, Scott, how many people were on Iron Man's nuts before it was Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was he not considered a B-list character at one point?
I mean, look, it's funny because I remember there was a time where War Machine stepped in for him, and everybody was like, "Hell yeah, War Machine!"
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it's very much opposite in the Marvel films as far as War Machine is very much a B-list character. I mean, he's probably not going to be here pretty soon based on what Marvel's doing. I'm sure they're going to move him up in regards to that. But yeah, Iron Man was. I don't know that I would ever consider him B-list. Maybe B-list. Yeah, he might have been B-list because he certainly wasn't A-list. A-list was, Spider-Man, Wolverine, the
Yeah.
X-Men. I mean, they were held in higher regard. That's why nobody bought a fucking Avengers film. That's why when Marvel tried to sell the full rights of everything to, I believe it was Fox, if
Yeah.
memory serves me properly. Fox was like, no, we'll take the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and this dude with the flaming skull. You can fuck off with the rest of that shit. We don't want it. You
Yeah.
know? Uh, which I wonder how much they regret that.
Well, I think the reason with Iron Man for the movies, it was easier to create an arc with that character, right? That super rich philanthro, you know, uh, starts with an armor. He's an alcoholic, and goes from there to being the one that saves the universe. So I think that's why maybe they picked that character to start with.
They picked that character because they didn't have the rights to all their characters.
That too.
Because I'm pretty positive, had they had the X-Men, that would have been where they started.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, Eh, I'm curious to see how they handle that now that they actually own the rights. Now that Fox doesn't have an opinion because they're Disney's. That's a little screwy in that regards, man. So in that regard, man, I mean, you're self-publishing this book.
Yeah.
Do you have any aspiration of it getting picked up by a bigger publisher?
I think at this point, I, if someone came to me and said, "Hey, listen, we like what you've done with the first two. We want to re-release it and help you publish the rest, what you got going on, right? Let's see where you're going. You know, if we like it, then let's move forward." I think at this point, I would be interested, only because it is very expensive to make comic books. And there's no lie on that. I'm pretty sure I've put at least $10,000 into it just to make two. Yeah, because I'm also printing it myself as well. I haven't done Kickstarter. I sold most of my comic collection to do. Yeah.
Why did you not try and run some kind of GoFundMe or Kickstarter or anything to that effect?
I think for the one thing I find with Kickstarter, if you don't already have a finished product, most people aren't going to always just jump at the fact that, okay, let's back them right off the bat, right? It costs a good $2,000 to $3,000 just to get a book made, and that's at a decent price. What I'm doing. Not everyone's going to throw money at you if your book isn't already complete. Now, in saying that, issue 3 is actually being done right now, or episode 3. The artwork has already been started. And we are actually looking at going the Kickstarter way. And now that I have an abundance printed of issue 1 and issue 2, the idea is to also offer that to those who back us. So I think the plan is to maybe December, January is when we're going to launch a Kickstarter of some kind, or a funding of some kind.
I'm not sure who I had this discussion with on the questionnaire, to be real honest. But what do you think about that? As far as Kickstarter initially, when it was started, it was to kickstart an idea, and then you fuck off and you go and you deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's what it was. But in the comic industry, it's very much become, hey, I've got this comic. All right, I'm going to put out issue 1. Okay, I'm going to put out issue 2. I'm going to put out, and that's where you establish people that are willing to pay for each one of those issues, and they don't ever leave Kickstarter. They just continuously use it to put out more comics.
I mean, for me, I wanted to do something on my own, right? I wanted to accomplish it on my own. I did have some people that have helped me out along the way. But in saying that, I sold most of my comic collection to get it to go. Like issue number 1, I sold my X-Men collection. I had issue 129 and up, all the way up to 544. Had every single issue, sold them all to get this all going. So, and that included, to make sure that the book could be printed and everything. And so for me, it was more of a reward for myself. Okay, I accomplished something on my own, of course, with the help of Andrew, with the help of Leandro, and my kids, of course. But I wanted to accomplish it on my own. I think now I'm at the point where I can keep selling these, but I'm not selling them fast enough because I haven't gotten it onto online systems. I haven't gotten it into every single store. And if you can find a publisher, that would help, right? Publishers are able to get it to distributors and send it out to all the stores, right? I haven't done that. I've done it myself. I wanted to build myself up before I did any of that. So I think it was really important for me to do that for myself.
I mean, I fully understand that, man, even though I've kind of slacked here recently. I need to do some things. I'll be on something in the questionnaire. But I think, how do you do that to where you keep the motivation to make sure, even when you see that it's eating a lot of time or this or that, and it's maybe not getting you the return that you would really like. How do you make sure you have the resolve to continue it?
You know what? I don't know if I could ever lose it. So when I did my first show, something changed. And I can tell you, I did my first show and it was so exhilarating and almost addictive. And I think the reason why was I kind of feed off that energy of other people. And all those people there at all those shows, they're all there for the same reason, for fandom, right? They're all excited to meet their heroes, meet their idols, and which is why I kind of started this, right? My one of the guys that I grew up kind of like over the last 10 years I've been listening to is Kevin Smith. I don't know if you noticed, sold my comic collection to make my own book, very similar to Kevin.
A little bit, a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. And there was something I couldn't tell you what show it was, what podcast it was that he did, but there was something that he had said that just kind of triggered me, and I'm like, that's what I need to do. I need to push myself out there instead of just being a person writing in a notepad and never doing anything with it. So I had started on other projects, and when I took a step back and I said, well, wait a minute, this is the one that the kids came to me with. I think we need to start with this one. So from that, all of that, I have noticed that you just need to, if you're going to these shows, if you're like being able to sit down with the guys of Dead Romans and watch as they literally explode, it is exhilarating. To watch what Fred, what Nick, and what Andrew have done, what Allison has done, it was absolutely amazing. Yes, exactly.
I couldn't look. Fred and Nick are great guys. I couldn't. You gotta say that. I couldn't bring these up because like literally, shout out to Nick for sending me these. I still need to read the rest of them but oh my god, look at those. If nothing else, just look at them.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, like that's
absolutely unbelievable artist.
Yeah, and great cats for that matter, for real. Like as well as Jim Valentino, who handles.
Oh, Jim was great too.
Yeah. You know, and you can check out all their past quests as well over here at the show. But those are certainly individuals that I think really work to put themselves out there. Now, mind you, Fred has the benefit of did you know he's a disc jockey?
Yeah, Fearless Fred. Yep.
That still amused me a little. I was like, disc jockey? What the hell?
Yep. That's how I knew him before getting into comics.
Now that I think about it, I should have been like, hey Fred, you should get my music played on your radio station up there in Canada. Come on. He'd have probably listened to my music and been like, dude, they won't agree to play any of this. The fuck is wrong with you? I'd have been like, hey, I had to try, Fred.
Yeah.
I figure the answer probably would be no if I tried to get any of my music played up there. They'd be like, dude, we're not playing a track in Canada that's America. It runs on murder. Yeah, they're not probably going to play that up on a Canadian station because I feel like it might cause a war between Canada and the U.S. And as funny as that would be, so South Park, might I add, fucking goddamn pangolins with this fucking COVID bullshit.
So I gotta ask, are you gonna digitally edit my mouth talking?
I got enough editing to do, and as hilarious as that would be, I could only do it if I did it to every Canadian that I've had on the show,
which is quite a few.
And yeah, just no, just no. That's my answer to that, Scott. Are you kidding me? Do you realize the list of Canadians that have been over here on the questionnaire? Like, I would literally probably have to edit half the fucking episodes that I've done.
Yep.
No. No, that is. I do enough fucking editing on this show. And are you trying to make it to where I literally never get anything put out, Scott?
Though, it would be funny.
Look, it would be hilarious. I I will in no way, shape, or form argue that point. But you see this? You see this bag? This bag has comics in it from the last time I've been to the store, and I haven't even had time to bag and board them, much less read them. I'm not. No. Do you want to do it?
I wouldn't even know what to do.
Yeah, unless you can give me someone that will edit it like that for free, Scott. Fuck no. Alright. Yeah. Damn. I made a mess trying to get those dead Romans down. But hey, check out the Voyager too, man. Nick's just dropping that shit.
Nice.
Now you just got me stuck on like a bunch of having people's heads edited to where they're doing this the whole time and like
That's
so
all you
no.
can see every time I talk, isn't it?
Oh, I'm just like, yeah, that'd be hilarious, but that would hurt me more than COVID did today. Okay,
Yeah.
like it would, dude. You have no because like you don't dick with video editing in any way, do you?
No, no. That's why I
Yeah,
said.
I don't need nothing but that face I just made. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Like I would absolutely lose my shit. Like it is enough trying to make sure that everybody's fucking lips right line up with the sound that's coming in as far as editing this and that process. I'm not like what you want to get into the situation going on in Israel, man. That's what we did on one of the past episodes. What's up?
No, I won't talk it.
I mean, fair enough. He was from Afghanistan, and one of the things he said he wanted to talk about was peace in the Middle East. And I'm like, now? Do you want to talk about peace in the Middle East right now?
It's the perfect time.
Yeah, it would be a bad idea.
Yeah. That was intriguing, right? All right. Hey, as far as where they can get the book, they can click the link in the fucking description, man. I'm not getting into that shit.
Yep, they can get it at Capcan Comics, based out of Brantford. www capcan.com.
Look, you don't have to know what he spelled. You just have
Yeah.
to scroll down just a little bit, just so y'all know. Come on, man, it's way
What
easy.
the fuck did that Canadian just say?
I don't know, but his head was split apart. Oh my god, dude, you're making me wish I. Uh, I'm not doing it because I know the amount of time that it would take me to make that work and look proper, and I would also need a shot of the background without you in it, and look. He's like, here, let me give it a sit down, Scott. I'm not doing it. Okay, motherfucking. I'm not doing it. All right. As someone that's edited a lot of video at this point in his life, I know what it would take. And I like my brain, dude. It's hurt enough today from COVID. Stop hurting it more. I swear, man. So you've got 6 seasons planned with Cereal Box Time Machine. 6.
uh, five seasons.
5. Man, whatever. COVID
Yep.
brain. My bad. I was close. That's pretty it's pretty ambitious there.
Yeah, you know what? For me to when I'm writing, I have to know where I'm going to even finish what I started, right? For example, first issue, there is actually an Easter egg in that first issue that is going to tip you off for a little bit of what happens in season 5. So like I already knew, like I said, I had already knew what I wanted to do with the ending. So I figured, if I'm going to do it, I might as well add at least something to it.
And dude, that's great storytelling, in my opinion. As well as, man, can I say, like, ask yourself how you've made the world a better place. If you haven't made this world a better place, there's still time. Those are great, great words to live by. They're not Scott's, they're Neil deGrasse Tyson's, but they are his favorite words as far as someone has spoken.
Yeah,
I think that's a very great line as far as within that. Oh my God, my head, Scott. I won't lie. This COVID sucks. Jesus. And yeah, dude, you would really want telepathy?
Oh, I know that question's a hard one to answer, right? Because do you really want to know everything that everyone's saying all at the same time? That's why I added that little extra piece saying that only if I can control it right from the beginning.
Okay, see, and like, I understand that as far as like, but at the same time, if you just reached out to random people's minds, I'm sorry. And this is purely me, not Scott. Let's be clear. But if I was just walking around any given city, any given day, and I'd like touch the minds of the 10 closest people next to me, and like look, I'm gonna shut people's minds down on a pretty regular basis. You know, like you thought what? Just dies. Like no explanation. Just they had an aneurysm, and I walked away. Right, and eventually that's gonna happen enough around me to where the FBI or the CIA or some bullshit 3-letter organization is gonna be like, hey, and then I'm gonna have to kill a bunch of FBI, CIA, or whatever 3-letter organization agents that are just to get them to leave me the fuck alone. Like, I feel like it would become very much a burden. That's why telepathy, I feel like, even though it's a great one, as far as in choice the power to have, dude, it's terrifying.
It is.
Yeah,
It
because
is.
people can be fairly atrocious. Like, imagine walking around in Hollywood, like, with telepathy.
Your mind would explode.
Well,
If you can't control telepathy, you're kind of screwed.
even if you can control it fully, and you just occasionally reached out and, like, touched people's minds. Let's say it was the 90s, and suddenly you're like, I wonder what Harvey's thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah? It would get real creepy real quick. And I don't think people realize how much that would be the same in almost any given area. It just wouldn't be the people that are famous. It would be like, oh, that's really creepy, dude. Go sleep forever. You know? That's I don't know, dude. Telepathy is one power I don't think I would ever want. Yeah. But you have no comic book you want to live in?
That's a tough one, dude. Do you really want to live in any city that's gonna get destroyed?
Uh uh oh, son of a bitch, man. I wish uh who was it? Look, I swear, hold on. I'm gonna bring this up so I know who the fuck I'm talking about and not fucking some shit up. But God. Too many quests and COVID brain, and I'm fully gonna blame it on that. Um, which is probably honestly pretty fucking accurate to be real sincere. You know? Uh I mean just in all honesty, but let me see. It was ah Matthew Samoa, right? Said he would live in the Marvel universe. And I'm like, you would live in the Marvel universe where you currently live? He lives in fucking New York.
Oh. Where it gets destroyed like every other book?
And
Yeah.
his thoughts on this was, yeah, technically it'd be fine, man. It'd just be like, we've gotten used to COVID. And if you lived in the Marvel Universe the entirety of your life, that's just what it'd be. Every once in a while, Galactus would come through, or, Juggernaut would be rampaging through the Bronx, or, Doc Ock would be destroying a train over in Manhattan, and it would just be the thing that would be the norm. So it wouldn't really be that bad. I think that's a terrible answer, firstly. I would never want to live. Well, and I told him this. I don't think the Marvel Universe would be bad if I lived where I lived, because I live in Indiana, right?
Yeah.
The fuck happens in Indiana in the Marvel Universe? Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Although there's always these events where the world's being destroyed.
Well, I mean, okay, so, but those are the only ones that I have to deal with. I don't have to deal with the day to day of, Rhino running through something, or, Magneto wants to tear a bridge in half, or this or that. Like the things that would just happen every single day. So I think the Marvel Universe is a terrible answer, as is the DC for the exact same reason. But
Yeah.
there's no comic book universe out there, period, you would want to exist within.
Well, I already do. I
You are,
exist in Cereal Box Time Machine.
dude, are you telling me you got a cereal box time machine, asshole?
No, you know what? I really couldn't think of one that I would want to be in.
That
It's a
asshole
hard
was
one,
said
right?
lovingly, Scott, just so you know. But just if you got one, I'd like some access to it. Or if you've got that wand, dude, could I borrow it? Because I will magically make all this editing to where all you Canadians look like you.
Yeah. Just wave the wand, boom, done.
Yeah. They all look
Which
Canadian, South Park style.
which what you should do is at the very end, boop, and then I have South Park style right at the end.
You have no idea the pain in the ass that would be, Scott, and that's all I got to tell you.
Additionally, you have to edit out the part that I just went boop.
COVID hurt my head enough today. Stop trying to hurt it more. That's
Apology.
sincerely all I can say in regards to that, man. But I say, I think there are certain comic book worlds that would be interesting to live in.
Doctor Who.
My wife says Doctor Who, which I think is terrifying.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Sweet
terrifying.
Tooth?
Not if you're a companion.
She's going with the I have to be a companion. Okay, that's fine. If we're going to the Marvel universe, can I be like fucking Deadpool? Actually, I take that back. Deadpool's got a pretty shit life.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I love Deadpool.
Gets shot in the ass quite often too.
Huh?
Gets shot in the ass quite often, does he not?
He gets shot everywhere quite a bit. What are you talking about?
That's true.
Like, Deadpool gets shot and dismembered and regularly just like chopped down to just his head, and then he has to regenerate, and like Deadpool. Deadpool has become the new Spider-Man, in my opinion, in the Marvel Universe, in the fact that he's the one they like to torture and screw with the most.
Yeah.
I mean, not that Parker's got a good time of anything ever in the Marvel Universe, really. Like, Peter Parker's always typically screwed with a great deal, but I think they give Wade Wilson the shorter end of the stick because you can do more to him and him still come back from it. You can't cut Peter Parker's head off and him live.
No. Yeah, true enough.
So Wade just gets the short end of the stick, man. How about this then? Let's flip it. So you wouldn't want to live in a comic book world. Is there a comic book character you think it would be interesting to live as?
Ooh. That's a tough one. I mean, there's so many characters that you could be. Do you really want to be them? Right? I mean, by my answer, I love Batman. I know you think he's crazy.
No. I don't think he's crazy.
Lunatic?
I know he's crazy.
Oh yeah,
Scott.
you know he's.
There's a
That's what,
difference, okay?
which he is. Which he is.
Certifiably.
Yeah. Do you really want to be Peter Parker? Right? What he does is unbelievable, right? He is constantly putting himself out there to protect anyone and everyone in his life. But do you really want to sacrifice everything that happens to him? I mean, he saves the universe and then right back to having something bad happen to him, right?
Lobo would be fun.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to pick one, I mean, Clark Kent and Superman. I mean, but do you really want all those powers?
I mean, that's the whole thing of you then have to have his utter morality. Because if you're just suddenly Superman, but it's still you, but you have to. So, I mean, that's the thing you have to keep in mind with just becoming a comic character. Look, make me Lobo. Okay, so I got to kill people, but I got a code of honor.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I'm the main man. Where's my money?
Yeah,
And I can literally survive anything.
You'd have to have the same thoughts and brainwaves as, if you want to be Superman, you got to do what he does, right? Can you do what he does?
And we've had discussions about Superman several times, as well as you can watch Hugh Rookwood take Spider-Man and Superman here fairly recently on the show and make them one character. And damn, he killed it. But with the whole aspect of Superman, man, I don't know. I feel that would be a difficult character to live up to. And I know Fred gave me shit. He's like, if anyone doesn't like Superman, it's because something bad happened to them in their life. That's when Fred interview ended. It did. I was like, listen, Fred, this interview's over. All right? I want to talk to him more about this shit, about me not liking Superman and blah, blah, blah. And we're not getting into my God. You're not my therapist, Fred. Go fucking. I think he was trying to do therapy on me, Scott. I really do. But I mean, to hold up to that character's morals, I think it would be excessively difficult, especially if you're coming from someone who's an adult in this society, and then suddenly you were thrust into that. I think you would be far more apt to, look at Lex Luthor and go, okay, and
Yeah.
cave his skull in with a single movement because you realize that, he's Donald. I'm not going to piss off everybody and say that, but I mean, he's someone that's a narcissistic asshole. Like if you were suddenly Superman in this universe, I'd like to think that there's no way and possibility you could live up to the morals of Clark Kent without kind of letting your switch just flip a little bit, especially if you were, like I said, someone that was abused or just given those powers at this particular moment, and you lived all of society as we have up to now. Like, look, dude, I know there are Canadian telephone companies up there that the CEOs need shot out into space. You know what I mean? And I only know that because of the Quest. All right, I don't know shit about otherwise I wouldn't know a damn thing about the Canadian telephone companies. Let's make that clear. I'm in the U.S., but through doing this Quest, I'm coming to the conclusion there are CEOs of Canadian telephone and internet companies that if you just went, it'd probably be better for the world.
Definitely
and
for Canada.
Yeah, and you're from Canada, you would know, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't think of how many different CEOs of different corporations where you could say that exact same thing. So I think to be given that amount of power, even if you were someone that just knew DC Comics backwards and forward, and suddenly you were in that universe, how could you not go? I could make this place way better. Watch this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it goes the same with Batman too, right? Batman is he has that set of rules. He will not kill, right? He arrests Joker, he throws him in Arkham, and he escapes from Arkham, and then he arrests him again. But he just will not do it. And I think that's what sets him apart from him and the villains, right? You're right. He is just as crazy as the Joker, as all those other guys, but he's willing to have that. He's got that rule where he won't break it, and that's what makes him who he is.
I don't know, man. That one. There. We could have a whole long discussion about Batman that we've gotten into with previous guests on the show. But like, it's the whole thing of a man with that much money that beats up poor people. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. But you know what? I think there is a relation from all of us, right? We all have something in us where we have our anger, our fear, and that's, I think, why we relate a little bit to Batman, and I think that's why he is such a big character. At least that's my personal opinion, and that it goes the same way with Spider-Man, right? On the opposite direction, where we can relate to Spider-Man being, a teenager and going through all of the, the teenager stuff, but then also trying to be a good person and save or protect someone, that, have that good in us. So I think it's like the total opposite for Batman and Spider-Man. I think that's why we relate with them so much.
I don't know. I always related more with Wade Wilson. I know that's not common, but it's just the truth, man. I mean, that's my honestly. If there are characters that I've related to the most within comics, it was Wade, Evil Ernie, Bishop, the characters that ostensibly the characters that were thrown to the side, and even maybe part of them wanted to be a hero, but everybody told them to fuck off until they were absolutely needed. And then suddenly it was like, hey, can you help us? Because without you, we're all going to die. Those have always been my favorite characters, personally. Are those characters like that? I mean, you could even say the same thing about Lobo, who is probably my favorite DC character, unless you want to get real obscure. Talking about Tommy, I can never remember Tommy's last name from Hitman.
Oh, I see. I don't know that one.
You never read Hitman by Garth Ennis from DC, running about the 90s? Ooh.
No.
You ever get a chance, Scott? It's a very intriguing story where Garth Ennis was allowed to create a character within the DC universe, take him from his beginning to his end, and then that character just is no longer there. It's very, and it was like a 60-issue run, if memory serves me proper. So it's one of the few times I think that's ever happened in DC where a single author was given a character. I mean, and he had interactions with Batman, with Green Lantern, like he was part of the main DC universe. But it was
they just did anything more recent with it.
Yeah.
They just didn't never do anything more recent with it. Yeah.
Well, that's because spoilers for y'all who haven't read Hitman. If you don't want to know how it ends, skip ahead like 50 seconds. He's dead. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, he took that character from it, getting introduced, getting superpowers to he's dead. So you're not taking that character any farther. But I can't think of any other instances where that's happened in either Marvel or DC as far as a single author being allowed to do that. Typically, you create a character for one of those companies.
And
it ain't yours no more. I think Garth is one of the only people that can literally say that like that. Not that I'm sure he doesn't own the rights to that character. If he does, I'm amazed. I'd have to do some personal research to find that out, but I highly doubt he owns the actual research to that or the actual rights to that particular character. But I'm curious, man, in that Are there any characters like when you look at the big two, getting into this as you have, and looking at the big two, or even the big three, or hell, man, just everybody. We ain't even gonna limit you like that. Is there anybody you really like to play with, especially with that dope spawn you got in the background over there, right there? That's clean, by the
Oh,
way.
I've messed with some X-Men stuff. I grew up on X-Men, the X-Men cartoon. So there is something with X-Men that I'd love to touch base with. I mean, there's people that have done, the Spider-Man and Batman and all that. I don't think I would ever want to put my hands on it. There's so much good stuff out there that I don't want to taint it. but X-Men, I think that's one that I would absolutely love to work on.
Is it why do you think it's because, and I say this based on your answer, with Batman and Spider-Man, I mean, you have one primary character, I mean, you've got, and I would say that as Bruce Wayne and Peter Parker. Though technically, if you go into those two universes, I'm not getting into it. My head hurts. All right, it does. I've got COVID. We're not getting into every Batman and every Spider-Man that's ever been because it's excessive. I mean, there's a Spider Rex. You know what I'm saying? There's a Spider-Man that's a freaking T-Rex, right? I'm sure there's a Batman somewhere that's a T-Rex too. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. All right, but with the X-Men, you have an endless supply of characters.
Yeah.
Is that what makes it to where it's kind of easier to step into in that regard?
I think so. Additionally, there's a specific story that I kind of wanted to mess with, and it was kind of to bring back the original thought around the X-Men. Right, the X-Men was supposed to be something for our world as one, to look at the person beside you and say, well, it doesn't matter what color you are or what you speak or anything like that, right? And I think they've really gotten away from that in the X-Men. And I really wanted to bring that back. There was a specific story that I kind of wanted to do to, like, right now they live, well, at least the last I saw it, they lived on an island away from humans because
Croquet.
Yeah, Croquet. Yeah. And I think that's I think that takes away from what the X-Men were, right?
Now, mind you, they did just end that within the comic books.
So
yeah,
I
there was a
overheard
whole
that something changed.
Yeah, and I don't keep up with the X-Men because I love the X-Men. I read Deadpool. That's the only X title I read, which it's included as an X title, even though he's very much on the border of things. But there are times where he pops in and he's a member. Like he can go to Croquet. He was a member of X Force, so he ties in. But he's very much a borderline character within the X-Men. I don't read the X-Men because that's a lot to be able to keep up properly. In all sincerity. But I do know. Yeah, they just recently ended the Croquet era, and even from reading some things that were slightly before that, slightly before the Fall of X, before the House of X and all of that, where they ended the Croquet era, they were very much touching on the racism and that people just in general hate mutants, go to hell, whatever. So I don't know that point's ever really been lost, but I do get your point as far as when they started the Croquet era, it did make it. I don't know that they lost it within that moment. They just made it to where it was like, look, they've been shunned so much, they went off to this island because they didn't want to deal with anybody. So I think that was definitely still there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It just felt like that they kind of got away from that. At least that's how I thought about it. But I mean, not everyone's going to pick up that way, right?
I mean, certainly, man. Comics, like anything, are up to a certain amount of interpretation, like anything you read. Nobody's gonna read the same thing and interpret them the same way. Exactly. That's just the way we are. I mean, hell, look at religion. We're not getting into that. But just look at religion overall. You know what I mean? No, nobody interprets any holy book the same way. There's a reason. There's so many different things from so many different things in regards to all of that, because people just, like I said, they interpret things differently independent upon how they read it. So you do definitely have that variable, man. But I mean, I just don't know if they ever really lost that. I think they may have put it a bit to the side, and they may have introduced it in certain ways, as far as with like when they brought Bobby Drake back in the original five and made him gay. And then he's talking to the older Bobby Drake, who was in the 616 universe, who wasn't brought from the future, and they have that whole conversation. I think there's that, because like they put the fact that, you know, the 616 bot. God, I hope this is translating properly as far as in comic nerddom. We'll say the 616 Bobby Drake, the one that wasn't brought from the future, the one that just was the original five and then went forward. He said he was always worried about coming out as gay because he was already hated as a mutant, and during that time it was more worrisome. But if you then, you know, the Bobby Drake that was brought from the past into the future was like, oh, and seen that it was more open in that capacity, so he was willing to be like and accept himself in that aspect, and even being a mutant. But the former one wasn't, because just time frame.
Yeah.
Nothing to add? Fine. Fuck off, Scott. God damn it.
I'm sorry.
See how it is? Thought you'd add something to that rhetoric. God damn it. Listen, I got COVID, man. Leave me alone. Shit. Oh, right? So, real quick, I do want to let you all know, right? Check out all the links in the description. Make sure you check out Cereal Box Time Machine. It is definitely, if you got a kid out there and you want them to read and just be able to enjoy a story, I recommend this. I really recommend this, right? All right, it's a great story. It's very heartwarming at times. And I'm really curious as to where you're going to take all this twist, especially knowing that you've got this villain coming in, Scott. It's very, very, very curious. Like I said, there's links in the description where you can go pick that comic up, as well as check out Scott and the rest of his work. My brain, Scott. Part of me was really thinking about postponing this interview, so you know.
It's all that shaking of the spine.
Hi, dude.
I started getting a little weird and hot. I feel like.
You all right? Oh, well, great. So I got that coming, huh? Awesome. I love because she got sick before I did, so she can tell me what's coming next. You know what I mean? Like, great. That's phenomenal, right? So
that's when you include that that you need to start wearing a diaper, because at some point you're gonna.
You had that last month.
Really? You're just gonna bring that shit up? Well, he's like talking about it. He's like, yeah, like, really, babe. This interview is fucking over. God damn it. Talking about me in a motherfucking diaper, right? So, what I want you to do, if you've enjoyed this interview with Scott, right? What I want you to do is I want you to send in the Balrog, right? And then I want you to make that Balrog, just make him sit and watch Love and Thunder endlessly. I know I said that's if you enjoyed this. I want you to fucking torture him. But at least I want you to make him send something that, you know, he enjoys as far as the Balrog. But then he's going to have to sit and watch Love and Thunder endlessly, because I don't give a shit. That was fucking rude-ass goddamn ending, Scott. I'm going to be a dick about it, right? I'm typically not. I'm typically nice about that one. But this time, I'm not being. Blame the COVID. I don't give a shit. Now, if you haven't enjoyed this interview, right, what I want you to do is send him Pennywise. Yeah, you know that clown? Why the hell is everybody so scared of Pennywise?
I honestly don't know. You know what? It's because I read the book when I was really young. And then all I could think about was this stupid, scary clown that came from space.
All right, so send him Pennywise, because I can't tell you, that's been answered at least a couple times, man. It's just kind of, I don't know. Whatever. Clowns ain't fucking scary. God damn. Clowns are fucking, no, right? No. All right? So, Send him Pennywise, and again, make Pennywise just sit there, torture him, do some real screwy shit, while Thor, Love and Thunder, is just playing, and on every room, in like it's playing on the ceiling, it's playing on this wall, 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 and it's playing on the goddamn floor. Because Scott's sitting here talking about needing a fucking diaper. Damn motherfucking son of a bitch, motherfucker, right? Besides that, like I said, what I want you to do is I want you to click all those links in the description. Make sure you check out Cereal Box Time Machine, right? Give it that thumbs up. Get your Comic Con. And have a good night, y'all.
Peace.
Hey, this is Jim Valentino here on Questionnaire.
What's going on? I'm Fred Kennedy.
This is Nick Marinkovich.
I'm Vladimir Popov, colorist of a bunch of cool indie comic books for a bunch of cool indie publishers like Dark Horse, Boom Studios, World Comics, Z2 Comics, IDW, Heavy Metal, and others.
I am the artist from Dead Romans. Make sure to check it out. It's out now.
Writer of Dead Romans.
From Image Shadowline.
And the fan-made Star Wars radio play, Mud 79.
Buy comics from Shadowline, Image, and everybody else. Buy stuff you like.
I really had a great time on this podcast.
Join us every single week.
And make sure you're watching the Questionnaire podcast.
Spidey sense just goes off and you really don't know why.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
And be sure to catch the Questionnaire
every week at 7.
He nailed it. First try.
What can I say?
I will drop it like it's hot because I've been told that that's what I'm supposed to do.
Wow. That's another party.
Oh, shit.